Hello all my crafty people out there. If this is your first time to my channel, my name is Stephanie and I upcycle clothing generally, and it's usually thrifted items that I'm getting at my local stores. And if you like that kind of content, watch along, let me know what you think, and subscribe. So today's project is this thrifted shirt. I believe I thrifted it probably from Goodwill for about $3.99 or $4.99. I'm not sure. It's a men's short sleeve Wrangler 3XL. It's a hefty shirt. It's got a lot of fabric, so we're going to be able to do something fun with it. And it is so much fabric that I think we're going to get not one, not two, but 3 projects out of it. But today we're just going to do one. No reason for overkill. So the project we're going to do today is going to be obviously going to be part of the shirt and some pretty springy fabric with some pretty colored flowers. And some paracord. Yeah, I said paracord. That's going to be included too. If you're going to include paracord, you got to include some kind of clips to hold the paracord. So I got some of those little squinchy, clips that you use like on your jacket pulls and stuff. I found a couple of these for 49 cents at Hoblob. Couldn't beat that. Woo! Lost my button. Big orange button. And some 1/2-inch cotton webbing. That is the basics, but hey, lately, would it be a project without some of this stuff? That's right, we're going to do a little more single fold bias tape. So, let's get going and see how this turns out. It's time to divide this shirt up into our 3 projects. So we're going to do the usual cut up the side right up to the sleeve. So we're going to cut up the side, we're going to cut around the sleeve and maintain the sleeve whole. I don't want to cut it down the underneath the arm. So we're going to have 2 whole sleeves, and we'll have 2 whole front panels where the buttons go down the middle, and then our back panel. The project we're going to do today involves the back panel. So let's just take a pair of scissors and get going on this. We're going to cut right up the side. Now when it comes to cutting down this seam, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to use the seam for any of the projects. So I'm just going to pick a side and get to that sleeve. And once I take this sleeve off, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. And I'm going to take the other one off in the same manner and separate the side in the same manner. So, one sleeve. Boop. Okay, I got the sleeves off and the sides open. So the only other thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go right down this shoulder seam. And I'm going to separate essentially the front from the back. And I'm going to go along the edge of the collar here. I'm going to keep the collar intact. But I'm also taking off the shoulders here, and these might be something I'm going to use. It depends on how long I want this project to be. I may go ahead and use the thickness of the shoulder. And there we go. So now we've got the 2, well, it's one single front piece with the button placket down the middle. And there's this shirt is one of those I like. It's got a pocket on each side, so that might give you a hint as to what I'm going to do with it. And this is our single piece of fairly flat fabric that we're going to use for an adjustable apron. Let's start off by folding this in half and deciding what we need for our apron. Now I've done a rough draft of some numbers here, and y'all know my drawings are not that great, but essentially when I fold the fabric in half, I'm going to measure 6.5 inches from the fold, and I'm going to draw an inch down. Then I'm going to come 17 inches down from the top and go 13 inches over. And that will give me that nice angle I want. I'm going to draw a line from the 1 inch mark here at the 6.5 inch down there. So that will give me the arm angle. And then I'm going to go down about 16 inches depending on how much we have. The length is not as worrisome for me because it's not a big issue. As long as I've got a lot of coverage up top and I've got room to put my pocket. I've got it folded in half, laid out flat, and I did a little pressing to make sure that the hem met up properly. So we're going to treat this like our fold, just like we would a piece of fabric. But I'm going to even this up. I want this flat, and I am going to use the top half of this shirt because I want to maximize the length, and this is going to help me get a little bit more length out of it. Just a bit, just a smidge, a few inches. So I've got it lined up on the fold here on one of my grids, and I'm going to cut this just so we've got a fairly even amount, or an even top up here. So I'm just evening up. Got to kind of push through that that seam. Okay, so this gives me a little bit better even. Now we're going to measure 6.5 inches from the fold. So 6.5 inches from the fold, and we're going to go down an inch. So I'm going to make an inch mark there. Okay. Then we're going to come 16 inches down the fold. It was 17, but I'm going 16, partly because I'm short and, well, my husband is tall, but in all honesty, I'll probably be the one wearing this apron. I like a good apron. So we're going to come 16 inches down from the top on the fold side, and we're going to mark that nice and dark. Okay, so you can see that mark right there. Then we're going to go straight 13 inches to the other side. So I'm going to pull this right up to this, nice and flat. I'm going to try and use my grid as best I can to get this even. We're going to go 13 inches out. Okay. All right. But let's go ahead and draw a perpendicular line just so we know that we're perpendicular to this line right here. Now see that corner we made right there? It's going to be drawn from that corner to the end of this 1 inch line from the top. Now we're cutting across a dart here. We might have to get creative with that. Okay, like that. All right. Now that dart is going to be a little bit of a problem, but not much because it just catches the tip of that dart. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue. We'll cut it out if need be. And then we're just going to take, let's go ahead and get 13 more inches here so we can get a second line right here. Because we're just going to draw down the rest of the way like this. We've got 2 lines to go by. So we're just going to draw another line like that. So this is our apron, okay? And we are going to simply cut it. Now I'm going to be kind of fussy up here. Not fussy, but I'm going to be careful the way I cut it up here just because of this dart. I'm going to kind of pull it to make sure I don't catch that dart the wrong way. Is there something? Oh. So I want to make sure I catch that dart. So I'm going to go down an inch like that. And I'm going to go across. Gotta be careful on the seam. There we go. See, that cut out perfect. Awesome. Now, of course, I could do this with the rotary cutter and the ruler, which would be fine too. And I'll probably do that for the bottom. Okay. And then we'll just go ahead and use the rotary cutter and the ruler just to make sure we get a nice straight line here. All right. Now we have our apron cut out. Of course, it's still got Wrangler at the top, which, in all honesty, I might leave it. Who knows? It'll look kind of cute. I'm not sure. I may or may not leave the tag, but what I'm going to probably do to this top where these 2 pieces are loose now is I'm just going to serge across the top. Okay, I have ironed down the 1-inch hem that's at the top of the apron where our serge line has already been done. I'm going to be sewing right on top of that serge line and right through that serge line to kind of give it a double needle effect. I have picked out some thread that will match this flower right here, this little kind of salmon colored flower. So the thread will be showing up on the apron. It won't be plain, I guess I should say, or the thread won't match this blue. Kind of want it to pop. So I'm going to run these 2 straight lines, and then we're going to start on the bottom. I do need to curve the bottom a little bit. And so in order to do that, this isn't going to be straight. We're going to need to fold it back over here. Just make sure we keep everything lined up. And I'm going to get a saucer because that seems to be the best thing to use. And I'm going to go and cut a little curve here. So hold please. Went in the kitchen and plucked this thing right out of the dishwasher. You know, the place that we usually keep our dishes. At least in this house. I'm not even going to bother with the marker. I'm just going to cut it with the rotary cutter. I'm just going to follow the edge of this. Make sure I get all of it. All right. There we go. Nice rounded edge. All right, now I know that kind of messes up my hem, but it's okay. I'm going to probably have to take that hem either out or cut it off. Okay, we're going to go put our bias tape on the bottom of our apron, which is going to be the casing to hold our paracord. What we're going to be doing is putting paracord all the way around this bottom, but we're going to want to be able to cinch it up from the center of the bottom of the apron. So in other words, when I pull it down here, this will draw up into that bowl shape in order to hold anything like eggs that we want to hold in our apron. Now, that means we need 2 pieces of bias tape. We're going to start the bias tape here where I've marked the center of the bottom of the apron, and we're going to fold this bias tape. We're going to fold it out the way we would be putting it on, but we're also going to fold it like this, and that'll create that edge that we need, that nice clean edge, so when we turn it in that we won't have any fraying. And we're going to meet the 2 edges together right here, and when we finish we'll top stitch from the outside to make sure that this interior hem or edge of the apron doesn't fray, because it definitely wants to. So let's go over to the machine, put our bias tape on, and then we'll run our bungee cord. This is not bungee cord. Our paracord into the bottom, and we're going to be running it to where it comes up like this at the bottom. So again, we can cinch it and pull it up. I swear it's going to make sense. Just bear with me. Okay, I just wanted to show you that this one is the first piece of bias tape that I've run around the edge, one side of the edge, and I folded it under that little 1/2 inch when I applied it. And I'm doing the same thing to this one. I'm opening up one raw edge that I'm going to put up against this edge, and I'm going to fold it under as well. And again, that's just going to create that nice little finished edge without us having to worry about any kind of fraying. I'm going to put a pin in this just so my machine has an easier time catching it without me having to adjust the foot 20 times. And this time I'm going to push my needle all the way to the left, and I'm going to run it over the top here. I'm even going to run it over the top of the previous one just to make sure we're all secure. When you're using bias tape, the good thing about bias tape, many good things, but one of the best things is that it's flexible and it goes around curves really well, which is great. But it does help if you take it after you've sewn it on and you give it a little press. I don't always do this. Most of the time I'm doing some pretty straight lines, but in this particular case, since I'm doing a little bit of a curve, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little press. And I just want to make sure that I don't see that bias tape from the other side. So I'm going to press this curve. I'm going to start in the middle of the curve, and then I'm just going to press it out. And that way I make sure that, see, it's nice and clean and curved, and it's perfect like that. I think I'm going to start a whole playlist just on bias tape, because let's face it, I've got some videos recently. Faux show. Okay, now that we've got all of our binding on, turned to the wrong side and pressed, and we have our little opening here, I need to stitch it down. So I'm going to stitch it all the way around, very close to the edge, because although our paracord doesn't look like it's very wide, it's round, so it means it still takes up as much space, if not more, than that 1/4 inch elastic. So right along this edge, and then you and I will go back over to the table and we'll run the paracord through and put our little clamp on to be able to cinch up the cord and make a pocket out of the bottom of the apron. I know, clear as mud. Okay, this is the back side of the apron, so you can see the bias tape, and it's been made a casing with an opening at the bottom so we can run the cord through, and I left the tops open so I can run the cord through the top. And these two ends will be caught when we fold over our edges to make our casing for our webbing that will go around our neck and be the ties in the back or front, however you like to tie your apron. So now what we need to do is open up our paracord. Y'all remember when this was big? Everybody was buying this stuff. It had to be a certain kind because it had to have a certain number of strands inside of it. It was big. And my son enjoyed the heck out of it. He made bracelets of all kinds. My husband even made dog collars. I am not the only crafty one in the family. So, let me get that. Let's see if I can get under here. Go. Just slip that open and take the rubber band off. You can get paracord online. I just happened to have bought this one in the Hoblob, and it's rainbow colored, which is kind of cool to me. So what we're going to do, we're going to treat it like we would our elastic, because it helps if you have something to stabilize and hold on to while you're putting it through. I'm going to push my my pen through a little far back, maybe about a 1/4 inch back from that that burnt end. And we're going to start at, it doesn't matter which end. We're going to start down here. And we're going to go all the way around. When we get here, we'll put our little clamp on. I don't know what you call it. Stopper thing? Cincher thing? I don't know. You know, you've got them on jackets, all kinds of stuff. It just lets you cinch up the cord and hold it in place. It's also good to keep from having your ties go back into your hoodies and your jackets and stuff like that. Now we're not looking for this to be gathered. We want it to be flush. The only gathering that's going to happen is when we pull the strings up, if we're using it to make the bottom of the apron a big pocket. So, but we'll straighten it out as we go. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight right now. And here is our first hole. Well, our hole in the middle of the bottom. Okay? So I'm going to pull this. Okay. And I think what I need to do is I need to get a good gauge of how far I need to pull it to go all the way to the other side. So that will allow me to know just where I need to put that clip. So let's see if we kind of get an idea here. I'm going to take it up. See, we've got it run through the first side. This is the hole where it's going to be scrunchy or scrunchable. And that should cover us because that goes all the way back up to the top with a little left over, which is good. So that being said, I know that this will go all the way around. So I'm going to take the pen off for a minute. And we're going to have to get creative because these are kind of hard to get through. Now this one has 2 holes in it, and that's so we can go back and forth. I think if it had one hole, it wouldn't work, because it wouldn't be a way to make a loop through this little. Got to hold it down pretty tight, and what I'm using is the safety pin that I was using to pull it earlier. I'm using it to kind of pull it out. So now I've got it through one side, and now I'm going to pull it down here, and now I'm going to go through the other side. And this isn't set in stone. If I needed to pull more thread through it, or more paracord through it, it wouldn't be a problem. I can just move the little clip. But I want to get it as close as I can right now. So see, this is what I want it to look like. I want it to have this little loop there, so that when we put the rest of this through here, we can pull it from here. So let's put our pin back on. We've already kind of pulled off the burnt part of the paracord, but we can reburn it. It's not a problem. Just need a lighter of some sort. And then we just pull through, and we're going to pull through to the other side. And once we get it kind of situated and centered where we've got enough paracord on each side so that it's not gathered, but it's there for us to gather. So what we do now is we're going to make our final casing for our webbing. Okay, and our webbing is a 1/2 inch wide, so we want to give it plenty of room to roll around in there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go over to the serger and just serge this side, so I don't have to do a double hem, roll and roll. I can just serge it and then fold it over for the hem sides, just like I did for the top. Just a little trick for ironing on a board like this, or ironing on any iron board usually should work if it's got enough padding on it. I'm folding under 1 inch using the good old hemming ruler to make sure that's right. And I'm pinning, but I'm not pinning in a traditional way where I'm going through both sides of the fabric or up and down into the fabric, weaving the pin in. I'm just putting the pin into the board, and that way I'm kind of securing it. This is where those glass head pins come in handy, because they can take the heat. They're not going to melt like the plastic ones, and they're not going to stain anything or leave nasty little marks on your ironing board or on your fabric. So I've been hooked on these since sewing school. Anyway, just putting pins in it, making sure I'm keeping the 1 inch measurement, and then I'm just going to run the iron over it. And like I said, it's not going to hurt these pins because they're glass. I'm just going to go over it. And that 1 inch will be more than enough for my 1/2 inch webbing to go in without giving it too much to turn. It won't give it a lot of room to turn on me, but it will secure it and give it the ability to run through and be cinched up and moved through this casing. All right, and there is our press. Just pull our pins out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to run a stitch line right on the inside, the top of this serge line, and that should give us plenty of room for our 1/2 inch webbing. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to run the stitch line right in the middle of my serge line. That'll give me room with some wiggle, without enough to turn it, but enough to run it through smoothly. So I'm going to run my seam right down the center of my serge line. We're looking at it from the back side. You can see where the top was serged and folded over. These are the casing sides for the webbing. And of course this down here is the paracord that's going to be used to cinch up the bottom for a pocket. So now the only thing we need to do is take our good old webbing, and I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hook it up with a safety pin. I'm going to use a really big one, make it easier, hopefully. And I'm just going to, that's a really big safety pin. Thing's like 2 inches long. Anyway, we're going to start from the bottom of one of the sides, doesn't matter which side, and we're going to push through, and we're going to just, it's going in there nice and even. So it's just like putting straps on a bag. You want to make sure that it's turned comfortably and turned right in the same direction. Yeah. You don't want it all twisted before you ever get it sewn down. And there actually won't be a lot of sewing to this part because actually there won't be any, because this is supposed to be adjustable completely, so you can adjust the neck, and which would adjust the, you know, where it falls on you, the height of the apron, as well as the ties. So that being said, there's 3 yards of webbing here. So I'm going to need a lot more than that for a tie. So I'm just going to pull, and I might use the whole 3 yards. I think I will actually. And what I'll do is I'll probably sew the ends of those with a zigzag or the serger or something, just so they stay in place. So I'm going to use the whole 3 yards. I wouldn't recommend less. Time to decide where we're going to put our pocket. So what I did is I folded my apron in half and ironed a seam, and then I folded it this way in half, lining up that crease, and put a seam there. This seam is not really necessary. This one's the one I'm worried about. This is the fabric we're going to use to make the big pocket. So I'm going to fold it in half, and I don't care about the salvage. Oh, I'm going to fold it this way. Right sides together. And I'm going to take up that salvage all the way to the edge where you can see the little fuzzy side, like that. And I'm going to go, I'm already pressed it, but I might press it again after I sew it, because you know it loses its press. So I'm going to sew down each side, turn it inside out, and then I'm going to sew this down here and make it the bottom of the pocket so the top will be nice and clean. I'll probably put a top stitch across the top. Okay, I went ahead and I just serged the sides of the pocket. So now I'm going to turn it inside out. Sorry, you can hear my husband and my cat arguing in the hallway. Anyway, I'm going to turn this out and get my little corners as nice and sharp as I can. And then we're going to press it. This is going to be our pocket. And see, that salvage is fine at the bottom. Although I guess it would be kind of cute if I used that at the bottom. Make it kind of look scrappy. But I probably won't. Now let's press it. Pull my little corner out a little more there. Like this. And then what we'll do, make sure that's pressed out enough. Don't want it to be, don't want to lose any pocket. Now we're going to fold it in half, and that is going to give us that center seam that we're going to use to line it up with the center seam that we pressed on the apron. You can see that center seam really well with the way the light's hitting it. And I know I want to put them underneath this part where the webbing starts. So I want to kind of position it where I want it. Make sure that my center seam is, let's turn it this way so I can see it a little better. It's a busy fabric, tell you what. But my center seam is centered right over this center seam. So I know that it's not going to be off. But the thing I need to do is I need to fold this. So I'm just going to pin this in place. And I just fold it under that end. You could sew it down and then fold it up. It's completely up to you. So this is 13 inches wide. I have no idea why I picked that odd amount. So let's do a 3-inch pocket here. Let's see if I can get the chalk to show up on this. It should, because it's bright. So we got a 3-inch pocket over here on the side. And that should do us. I don't know if we need anything else. We're over here to sew our pocket down. But there's something I forgot. No story of my life. I forgot to top stitch the top of this pocket so it doesn't lose its crease. I'm not willing to unpin the whole thing, so I'm just going to unpin these 2 pins, run the top stitch, and then run all the way around. Yeah, I'm just not keen on repinning the whole thing, so I'm going to open it like this and just run a top stitch over the top. Okay, everybody, we got our apron done, and I think it turned out pretty cute. You can see we got the big pocket on it. Now, when I put mine on, I like to hold it with my chin, and the reason I do that is just so when I'm cinching this down, I don't lose it around my neck. Now, you can cinch it as tight as you want. I kind of like mine like this, kind of high, so I can tie it in the front. But you can wear it any way you want, and you can make the cord longer if you wanted to tie it differently. So we've got the adjustable apron to make it as tall or big, as small as we want. We've got our pocket with our little utensil side. And then we have this. We've added a feature because when I go out to collect eggs, I generally just pull my shirt up and hold what I can. But I don't always have a shirt that works for that. So when you cinch this up, and you can make it as tight as you want, as high as you want, you've got an extra pocket. This would work in the garden. This would work crafting, doing anything that you needed to carry something with you that didn't get in your way. So I think turned out pretty cute. We've got a cinchable pocket and an adjustable apron from the top. So if you liked this project, or if you enjoyed watching this project, like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what you think. And I will catch y'all on the flip side of our next project.